Hey guys, there's an article that was published on Sunday in the Free Press called "The Day the Delusions Died." Dan Bongino talked about it on his Tuesday show. I'm going to play a little bit of his video, but the reason I want to talk about this article is because if you understand the premise of what the author, Konstantin Kisin, is saying, then you will understand the liberal mindset and why it is so flawed and so dangerous to any society. Let's get into it. As we settle into our routines, there's something quite unsettling emerging across the Western world. I'm going to play a short clip by Dan Bongino, who on his show on Tuesday talked about the article that I want to get into. And I really think it's important that you stick around and listen to what we're going to talk about, because you will perfectly understand why leftists and the woke think the way they do. So let's just give this short clip a listen.
You need to read this piece. It's called "The Day the Delusions Died." It's by Konstantin Kisin, who went viral for a speech he gave. We actually played it on the show. Folks, the reason you need to read this piece is because it highlights a book. Joe, remember the book? Conflict of Visions by Thomas Sowell that I've been talking about forever. The book, ladies and gentlemen, the world is going to change after this, after October 7th, and a terror attack that is practically guaranteed to happen in the United States. This is an amazing piece about what's coming. He starts by saying this. A friend of mine joked she woke up on October 7th as a liberal and went to bed that evening as a 65-year-old conservative.
It's a shift so profound, it's like waking up on a seemingly ordinary day only to realize the world outside is no longer what you thought it was. The article mentions Dr. Thomas Sowell's 1987 book titled A Conflict of Visions. The first one I read by Sowell on this subject was called The Vision of the Anointed. Both books are difficult to read because Thomas Sowell is a very learned intellectual man, and he's writing about very deep subjects, and he tries to explain every aspect of what he's talking about. They're not written for entertainment, is what I'm saying. In A Conflict of Visions, he offers a simple and powerful explanation of why people disagree about politics. Sowell argues that we disagree about politics because we disagree about human nature. We see the world through one of two competing visions, each of which tells us a radically different story about human nature. The two visions are the unconstrained vision and the constrained vision. Now, it's important that you learn the difference, and once you do, you will be able to figure out why a dopey leftist thinks the way he does on any given subject. Leftists who have the unconstrained vision think that human beings are malleable and that they can be perfected, they can be fixed. They think that social ills and evils can be corrected through collective actions that encourages human beings to just behave better. For leftists with this vision, they believe things like poverty, crime, inequality, war, that they're not altogether inevitable. They think people inside these situations are puzzles that can be solved. And for leftists and Democrats, they think throwing money at a problem most of the time will fix it. For example, when Democrats were saying that terrorists kill people because they don't have jobs, remember that dumb shit? That is an example of a leftist who holds the unconstrained vision. They think the evil of terrorists can be fixed if they got a job. They believe that we need only to say the right things, enact the right policies, and spend enough money, and we will fix these social ills for good. The worldview is the foundation of the progressive mindset. It's why Democrats argue that a criminal who robbed an elderly couple and beat them while doing it was a drug addict and only did the horrible things to get money to support their habit. And in their world vision, they think that if government spends enough money to get the drug addict clean in a rehab and then train him to get a job, they wouldn't go around attacking people for money to support a drug habit. You see, that's why you constantly hear that instead of going to prison, a drug addict in front of a judge will raise his hand and say, "I'm willing to go to rehab." And the judge will go, "Fine, there you go. There's a nice young man. He's going to go to rehab and we'll fix everything by throwing money at it." It's stupid. This is why you hear Democrats make some of the dumbest arguments when it comes to fixing a social ill. And it's because they believe they can tinker with society and then on a micro level, individual people with social programs that will change their behavior. And it's usually a colossal waste of taxpayer money. But now you know why they do this, why they think this. Now, by contrast, people who view human beings through a constrained vision believe that human nature is a universal constant, if you will. They understand that no amount of social engineering, of tinkering with people's lives, can change the sober reality of human self-interest. They understand that human empathy and social resources are necessarily scarce. So people with the unconstrained vision of humanity think that people can be changed if you spend enough money on their problems or say the right thing. While people with constrained vision understand that most political and social problems will never be solved. They can only be managed. To give an example of the difference, Democrats and leftists think that Hamas terrorists would not want to murder Jews if only they had better living conditions and if they had water and electricity of their own. And they blame the Jews for their shitty lives. While conservatives of the constrained view believe that Hamas terrorists are always going to want to kill Jews because that is their nature, and no amount of water or electricity supplied for free by Israel, by the way, is going to change their minds from wanting to slaughter as many Jews as humanly possible, and that the only thing that you can do is manage the situation, probably by killing Hamas terrorists to even protect the Palestinians from them. Now, something happened on October 7 after we saw that Hamas acted like animals and barbarians. People saw the left's immediate excuses and how they immediately tried turning it around and claiming the Palestinians were the victims and not the 1,400 innocent Israelis who were butchered by Hamas. And there were the celebrations throughout the Western world that followed Hamas's orgy of violence. We had Harvard students dancing and cheering the slaughter of Jews. We had the usual suspects in Congress trying to bullshit the American people into thinking Hamas is just some misunderstood group of Palestinians who are freedom fighters and Israel was the real evil in the game. Folks, the left's actions forced an overnight exodus from the unconstrained camp into the constrained one for millions upon millions of people. Many people woke up on October 7, sympathetic to the parts of woke ideology, and went to bed that evening questioning how they had signed on to a worldview that had nothing to say about the mass rape and murder of innocent people by terrorists, including children. The reaction to the attacks, from outwardly pro-Hamas protests to the mealy-mouthed statements of college presidents, celebrities, and CEOs, has exploded the comforting stories many on the center left have told themselves about progressive identity politics, which conservatives have known for over a decade as an evil ideology. For many years, these people opted for the coping mechanism of pretending that the institutional capture of universities, corporations, and media organizations by the woke mind virus was no big deal. They would say, sure, students shutting down events they disagree with is annoying, but it's just students doing what students do. But on October 8th was a wake-up call for those who didn't appreciate that the ideology of the stupid campus has spread to our cities, supercharged by social media. We woke up on October 8th to the clamor of street protests in cities across the West, condemning Israel even before any major Israeli response to the attacks. We watched celebratory crowds brandish swastikas and chant "Gas the Jews" at events purporting to be about the loss of Palestinian lives. We even saw Black Lives Matter chapters lionizing the terrorists. Folks, a sea change is happening because of this. It's happened in the past. Things have happened all throughout history that have caused a sea change in people's ideologies. People started registering as Democrats when the lie went out there that FDR saved us from the Great Depression. When Jimmy Carter was such a terrible president that he created gas lines and inflation that was off the charts, and then he blamed the American people for being in a malaise, a sea change happened Ronald Reagan won 49 states in a landslide. And the way the left behaved about Hamas's slaughter of 1,400 innocent Israelis starting October 8th has triggered another one. Millions upon millions of people who subscribe to the progressive, unconstrained view are no more. It was too much for them to handle. And this sea change is going to have consequences politically for the left. October 7th wasn't just another date on the calendar. It was a jolt of reality, a cruel awakening from a comfortable dream. Hamas terrorists, with utter disregard for human life, crossed over into Israel and extinguished the lives of 1,400 innocent souls. In the process, they didn't just devastate families, they shattered the cozy delusions that many people held here in the West. No more. They're rethinking it now. All right, make sure you subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Share our videos with like-minded friends. Hit that notification bell. Stay informed, stay vigilant. Always remember to read between the lines and the lies. Thanks for watching this video. See you in the next one.
A little different than all the rest. I'm quite old-fashioned, where I had sometimes played chess. And when I'm out, I'm looking for that vintage